Hi everyone. This is in response to a request on Reddit on how to deal with different weapon systems in FTL. FTL gives you a wide array of different weapons, and all the weapons do slightly different things. And one of the key things is that the amount of time it takes for a weapon to hit an enemy target and how that weapon does damage and how long the weapons take to reload are all things that you have to take into consideration when you're firing off your weapons. So what I've done is I've done a quick run through in easy mode and I've accumulated an array of weapons, and I want to show you how you're going to time your weapons to be the most effective against this hapless mantis scout here. Now, to represent the weapons here, I've got one ion weapon in the form of an ion stunner. I've got a flat gun, which you'll see in the advanced edition, so if you're only playing on basic, you're not going to see the flat gun. I got dual lasers, which are just regular basic starting lasers, and I've got a pike beam, which is going to represent a beam weapon. So starting from left to right, the ion weapon, all it does is it takes out shields, or it basically takes one energy bubble away from whatever it hits, which is pretty much always going to be the shields if the shields are up. And it's going to keep that energy away and lock it down for 5 seconds per damage. Now this guy does one damage, ion damage, so it's going to lock down the shields for 5 seconds. Now, because the ion weapon tends to lock down for a fairly lengthy period of time, so long as you hit with your ion weapon within, well, 5 seconds before you want to send your rest of your shots out, you're fine. So timing with the ion weapon is not terribly critical, but you want to make sure that it goes first because the ion weapon moves slowly. So if you fire your ion weapon at the same time you fired other weapons, your ion will actually get there last instead of first. Moving on to the flat gun is a different beast altogether. You notice that it's got a very large circle. It doesn't tell you exactly where it's going to hit. It's going to hit in an area. So sometimes the shots will land inside the ship, sometimes they'll land outside the ship, but all of them are going to cross the enemy shields. So the flat gun is very effective at taking down shields, but it is not necessarily as effective at doing damage to any particular room. You can see if we were trying to aim for a 2-by-1 room, well, a lot of that circle is going to land outside the ship, so those shots won't do any damage at all. But, like I said, all those shots are going to cross the shield, so all of them are going to knock it down. Unlike the ion gun, though, when the flak hits, it's going to take out shield bubbles in the same way as a regular laser, which means that the enemy shield is going to start recharging immediately, and it takes about 2 seconds for each level of the shield to recharge. So when we hit with the flat gun, we only have roughly a 2-second window where we're going to be dropping the shields. Dual lasers, I don't know if I have to say too much about dual lasers. Hopefully people know what regular lasers are. They are going to be essentially the next fastest weapon. They're going to be much slower than the flat gun. So since we want the flat gun to hit first and take down the shields, you're going to see it's important to fire our dual lasers long after we let go of the flat gun so that they hit and they aren't wasted on bouncing off the shield. They actually hit the room that we're aiming for. And then finally we have the pike beam. Now beam weapons are instantaneous. As soon as you fire them, they're going to hit. Now most beam weapons cannot penetrate any shields. The exceptions are the glaive beam and the halberd beam, which both have the ability to penetrate a few layers of shields, but most beam weapons are immediately stopped by any level of shield. So in order to use a beam weapon, you have to completely knock down all of the shield bubbles. So this is going to be the last weapon that we're going to fire because we want to fire it after we're sure that all the shields are out. So let's go ahead and set up a volley here, and let's show you what I mean. So we'll fire off the ion stunner first, and you can use use the pause button liberally while setting off your volleys because timing is important. So my ion is away, and all I need to do is have it get a little bit of a lead on my flat gun. The flat gun is the next gun to go, and this is the one that's most difficult to time. Now, I really want to be shooting for his shields because that's what I want to knock out. But if I take my flat gun and throw it onto the shields, well, a lot of that circle is outside. So we're going to gun for this room, which is going to allow me to get a better chance of getting hits in here. So we're going to let this go too. And the flat gun is the most difficult one to time because the flat gun moves very slowly, but it only takes down shields at like a regular laser hit. So we want our dual lasers to follow the flat gun, but we want the dual lasers to get there right after the flat gun hits, but not too long after. We don't have the window that we have with the ion gun. The way that I do it is, the flat gun goes off, it makes a distinctive booming sound, and we'll echo for a little bit, and I'll see the flat gun go off the side of the screen. When that sound disappears, that's about the time that I want to fire my dual lasers. So we'll let the flat gun go. And that's about the time that the sound disappeared. So this is about the time that you want to fire your dual lasers. So we'll take our dual lasers, we'll set them up, and if I've done it right, you'll see that the flak will come in, take down the shields, and then the dual lasers will hit. See, and the flak came in, hit the shields. His shields are down, and our lasers haven't hit at all. Now, the flak is hit. We already have his shields down, and this is when we're going to let go with our pike beam. And you can see the amount of devastation that we're going to wreak on this ship just because we managed to time our shots correctly. So we managed to drop this ship in one volley down to a single hull here, and managed to damage a whole bunch of rooms. When we get to, let's do it again. Now when we are on our second volley, we remember the ion's going to go first, the flak is going to go second, the lasers are going to go third, and the pike is going to go fourth. But you notice that the pike beam has much longer reload than these other things. So if I just fire them off in the same sequence again as soon as they get reloaded, well, this pike beam isn't going to be loaded in time to take advantage of the volley. So we're going to have to let the pike beam get a little closer to being charged up, because we want to make sure that after we're done with the volley, the pike beam is ready to go. Not really necessary in this case. We could have finished off this ship just with these weapons, but I just want to show it as an example. So now we're going to do it again. We'll fire off the ion, let that get a little lead, fire off the flak. Boom's disappeared. Now's the time to fire off the dual lasers, and if we timed it right, the pike beam should just be charging up, and it was just charged up as we hit, so it would have been available for us, but unfortunately this ship did not survive the volley at all, so we didn't get a chance to get it off. But that's the gist of what's going on. So let's go hunt around for another ship and see if we can do that again. This is a little auto scout, and you notice that it has no shields at all. So when you see a no shield ship, obviously our need to time our volleys is completely gone. This is when you can actually make pretty good use of auto fire, because you just want to fire off your weapons as quickly as possible. And if you do get in a situation as well with an enemy ship that you've crippled their shields, you don't want to do all your volley timing. You want to fire off your weapons as quickly as you can. So we're just going to crush this ship here, and hands-free, don't even need to worry about it, and that ship is gone. Let's see if we can find another ship that we have to actually time our shots on. Let's see what we got up here. We'll attack this ship just for demonstration. Now he's got a big missile here, so we're going to try and hit his weapons right away. And remember what I said about the pike beam. Pike beam's going to charge up more slowly than the other weapons, so we can't fire off our salvo right here. We have to wait. So get the pike beam charged up a little more. take the stunner, fire it away, flak gun, put the flak gun on the shields. We'll use our dual laser and our pike beam to damage the weapons. So flak goes out, boom disappears. Take the dual lasers, we'll put that on his weapons. And we've knocked out his shields. Now let's let the pike beam do its job here. And we've crippled him. One more time, everything's charged up. Pike beam is just about ready to go. Ion out. Flak gun out. Dual lasers out. His shields are already down because of the ion. We'll let the pike beam go. And there we go. 2 salvos and he is done. I'm going to skip this guy just for the demonstration period because I don't want to fight. He's in a nebula or in an ion storm and I won't be able to power my weapons. So let's jump back here for a moment. And we're going to go fight this guy. Now, one thing that I want to do here is I want to show you I have another weapon sitting in my equipment, and that's the heavy laser 2. So what's going on with the heavy laser 2? Well, the heavy laser 2 fires, and this you can put this in the category of what we call heavy hitters. So heavy laser 2, hull lasers, those are the type of laser weapons that give you additional bonuses for hitting, either increased breach chance, extra damage. In the case of the hull lasers, double damage against systemless rooms, whatever. But the heavy laser shots go a little bit faster, move a little bit faster than the regular laser shots. So what does that mean? Well, it means if I fire off these at the same time, the heavy lasers are actually going to get to the enemy ship just a little bit before or exactly at the same time as the dual lasers. And that's a bad thing. Why? Because any laser that hits a shield, whether it does 2 damage or 1 damage, it's only going to knock down 1 shield bubble. So just like with the pike beam, we wanted to make sure that the pike beam hit last. When we have a weapon like a heavy laser or a hull laser, we want to make sure that those lasers hit last too. So you're going to see that with the heavy laser, I'm going to do a similar thing with the timing to make sure that that goes last. So we're going to attack this ship. First part is going to look... Yeah, well, that's unpleasant. I'll go deal with him. So the first thing we're going to do, again, is fire off the ion weapon, quickly followed by the flak. And now my heavy lasers are almost charged. And what I can do is I'm going to fire my dual lasers first. Both of those shots are out. Now I'm going to fire the heavy lasers afterwards. You see that those 2 heavy laser shots came in after the dual lasers. And the dual lasers, I needed them to knock down 1 bubble of shield because my ion and my flak whiffed. And now I get 2 points of damage instead of 1 point of damage if I had done that in the opposite order. So his shields are out, and as I said, once we have the shields out, it's not necessary to volley anymore. So we will just take this opportunity to stick ourselves on auto fire and finish him off. Of course, if he does that, well, that's really annoying. So make this battle go on a little longer. But we've got lots of energy, so down he goes. Let's go fix our shields here. You can see I'm not really paying attention to this game. I got guys sitting around, doing whatever. Got another couple ships here, so let's just run through it again, just for the sake of demonstration. Another auto assault, 2 shields. Set the ion up to fire first. Goes out. Put the flak gun right behind it. Wait for that boom to disappear. Now I can fire off the dual lasers, followed immediately by the heavy lasers. And there you go. So all of our shots hit in the correct sequence, and we were able to knock out all of his shields in our first volley. Now we're going to have to wait a little bit for our heavy to catch up with the charging again. Ion out, flak out, boom's gone. Fire off the dual lasers, and fire off the heavy lasers. Now I can just go into auto fire mode and wipe them out. One more time, just for practice. Same type of ship. Unless he decided to hack my weapons, which is going to make this demonstration go a little longer, but we should be fine. Slowly charging up. Okay, we're ready. Ion out. Flak follows. Boom disappears. Dual lasers. Dual heavy lasers. And there you go. And he's gone. So, I don't usually get an opportunity to play on easy level, so just get some extra shields here, I guess. And leave this sector. Now, just to kind of finish up, let's take a look at what happens if we don't do weapons timing. So what I'm going to do is let's get to the next sector. It's assault and control. We're just going to find a ship, and we're going to just put our weapons on auto fire and see what happens. I do have a lot of firepower here, and actually my weapons are kind of well timed as they are, because these first 3 all take 10 seconds to... But let's, we've shown in the past couple ships that we faced that we've been able to take them out in pretty much 2 volleys. But I'm going to, pretend that I don't know anything about the game, and I'm going to turn on auto fire, and I'm just going to send everything going towards the shields, and let's see what happens. Could very well just take them out anyhow, because like I said, we do have a lot of firepower going down range. But, so we did a point of damage on the shields. But you notice that our heavy laser, lagging behind, it's not charged up in time to work with the rest of the volley. We've taken a hit to our own weapons. So we're already on our 3rd volley here, which was much longer than the other ones. And we took a hit to our weapons, which has slowed us down some. So you can see that by not timing my weapons, things have gotten a whole lot less efficient, even though they were fairly well timed. And I can probably let me find another ship and do that again, so you can get an idea of, especially if I can run into a ship that's got 3 shields. how ineffective that's going to be to fail at timing. So if I do this distress beacon here, hopefully there's a... no, I'll just give him fuel. Give us a laser charger. Pulsar, asteroid. Let's do this guy. Alright, Zoltan shield. So this guy should take a little bit longer. And, you know, we might not survive this because we got the asteroids going on. But let's see what happens. So take the ion stunner. We'll just put that on auto fire on the shields. Take the flak gun. Put that on auto fire here. And let's say that we want our dual lasers to go on the weapons, and the heavy laser, let's put that on the weapons too. And we're just going to sit back. I'm not going to touch anything. And see how well we do. Well, fairly well. Bad example. Shouldn't have tried to do this in an asteroid field. But hopefully you get my point. Timing your weapons is a whole lot better. And here's a... Okay, so this is actually going to be a good example. So stealth is something that can really screw up your volley controls, because if you accidentally time it to let go of your volley while he turns his stealth on, you're going to lose it all. So we're going to go into noob mode and just auto fire away at his shields and see what happens. So what happened, if I had been timing this, you would have seen that my volley got interrupted by his cloak, and my heavy laser would not have been able to fire off in time, which means I would have had to split my volley between both sides. So unfortunately, what I thought was going to be a good demonstration of bad shooting isn't really going to work, because the ships aren't really tough enough to handle this amount of firepower anyhow. But I hope that you have learned something about weapon timing. One more time, let the ion go. You have a large window for the ion to hit because it's going to knock down shields for 5 seconds. Next comes your flak gun. That's is only going to knock down the shields for 2 seconds, and they're immediately going to start recharging. So much more narrow window of opportunity to take advantage of the flak gun. And remember, that you hear that booming sound when it shoots, and when that booming sound dissipates, that's about the time that you want to fire off your lasers. And you want to make sure that you fire your regular lasers, the ones that only do 1 damage, first, and then fire off any other laser weapons that have special characteristics, like a heavy laser that does 2 damage or a hull laser that can breach. Make sure that those get fired off after your regular lasers. And of course, if we went back and put our pike beam in, if we want to use a beam weapon, again, we have to make sure that all the shields are down before the beam weapon goes. So the beam weapon always goes last, but the beam weapon hits instantaneously. There's no delay. So as soon as you see that you've knocked out the shields, if you've knocked out the shields when the flak gun hits, go ahead and fire the beam weapon. So that's it for weapons timing. I hope you learned something. You might notice I didn't talk about bombs or missiles. They have the bombs teleport over, and the missiles have the ability to go through shields. So timing them isn't really important. You can pretty much fire those off as quickly as you can. They tend to fire slowly as well. The reason being is that all of this weapon timing is focused on the enemy shields and being able to drop their shields even just temporarily to let through your pike beam or your heavy lasers to do some real damage. The last thing that I'll talk about is how do you want to arrange your weapons on the bar, is actually quite important. What I tend to do is what you want to make sure is that the weapon that is the most important, which is also usually the one that takes the most amount of time to charge, is actually going to be the weapon on the left. So I actually have these kind of reversed. So what do I think is the most dangerous weapon here? Well, it's the pike beam. And if I lose energy to the pike beam, well, that means that it's also going to be the one that's going to take the longest amount of time to recover. The ion weapon, probably the least important. It'll knock down a little bit of the shield, but if this thing gets knocked out, that's fine. So if I take a stray point of damage to my weapons here, I'm going to lose first the ion, then the dual lasers, then the flak, then the beam, and that's the order that I want to lose them in. And certainly if I put my heavy laser back in, I want to make sure that I don't want to lose this thing on just 1 point of damage, because now I've lost a whole bunch of firepower. I can stand to lose the ion stunner. Losing the dual lasers is great, but it's still better than losing the flak gun, which is going to be much more reliable in taking down shields. So remember, keep your weapons ordered from most important on the left to least important on the right. That should save you quite a bit of grief if you take some weapons damage. All right, and that wraps it up. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope you learned something.